Welcome back to the channel. We got a fun article today. Banned in the 60s, 12 songs that fueled social change. Music shapes our world in weird and wonderful ways. The 1960s stand out as the decade when songs didn't just entertain, they sparked revolutions. These tracks became cultural battlegrounds where artists and authorities duked it out over what could be said, sung, or suggested. Ready to explore 20 songs that rattled the establishment? These tracks didn't just push boundaries, they bulldozed right through them. First on the list is Tell Laura I Love Her by Ray Peterson, released in 1960. Ray Peterson's tear-jerker about a boy who dies in a car race shocked parents everywhere. Tommy enters the competition to win money for his girlfriend's ring. Spoiler alert, it doesn't end well. His final words create the song's haunting chorus that radio stations found too morbid for teenage ears. Stations across America banned the record faster than you could change a dial. The funny thing, it topped charts anyway, much like these horror movies parents forbid teens to watch, only making them more appealing. The song's forbidden status just made kids want it more. Music historian Ken Barnes notes this track became the teenage tragedy anthem nobody wanted but everybody needed. Up next on the list is My Generation by The Who, released in 1965. By 1965, kids and parents might as well have been speaking different languages. The Who's anthem captured this disconnect with a simple declaration, "Hope I die before I get old." Roger Daltrey's stuttering delivery wasn't just artistic, it was downright confrontational. The BBC clutched their pearls and banned it, worried about offending people with speech impediments. The song climbed to number 2 anyway. The gap between youth culture and mainstream media had grown wider than the space between a teenager's headphones and reality. Cultural critic Greil Marcus later observed that the track wasn't just rebellion, it was a declaration of independence. Up next on the list is Eve of Destruction by Barry McGuire, released in 1965. As Vietnam escalated, Barry McGuire unleashed a protest bomb that hit every sore spot in American politics. The track confronted war, civil rights, and nuclear fears with zero sugarcoating. Program directors nearly fainted when they heard it. Bill Drake of RKO General Stations specifically hated the line about being, quote, old enough to kill but not for voting. Many stations blacklisted it as un-American. Heaven forbid young people question authority during wartime. Despite the ban hammer coming down hard, Eve of Destruction topped the Billboard Hot 100. Turns out people actually like music that said something. Up next on the list is 8 Miles High by The Byrds, released in 1966. The Byrds claimed their 1966 release chronicled a turbulent flight to London. Sure, the Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds was just about a drawing, right? Radio stations didn't buy it either. The track became a casualty in America's growing panic about drug culture. Roger McGuinn's guitar work borrowed from jazz saxophonist John Coltrane, creating sounds rock that hadn't explored before. His 6-string Rickenbacker guitar wove patterns in like a master weaving, creating an intricate tapestry, beautiful, complex, and impossible to recreate. Music journalist Richie Uttenberger later crowned it, quote, the first bona fide psychedelic rock classic, officially marking the moment rock music got weird in the best way possible. Next on the list is A Day in the Life by the Beatles, which came out in 1967. Sgt. Pepper's represented the Beatles' transformation from cute mop tops to serious artists. The album's final track combined John's dreamlike verses with Paul's bouncy middle section. The BBC immediately spotted trouble in the line, quote, "I'd love to turn you on." Officials banned it faster than you could say moral panic. The Beatles insisted they weren't any drug references. Cultural historian Jonathan Gold pointed out the generational disconnect. Quote, "Authorities heard drug promotion where young listeners heard poetry about awakening consciousness. The song became even more famous for being forbidden, a pattern that repeated throughout the decade." Next song on the list is Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds by the Beatles, released in 1967. Another Sgt. Pepper's track sparked similar outrage with its kaleidoscope imagery. The song's initials, LSD, didn't help its case with authorities. John Lennon maintained it came from his son Julian's drawing of a classmate named Lucy, a defense that convinced approximately nobody at the BBC. The production created a sonic wonderland matching the surreal lyrics. George Martin's studio wizardry included flanging ADT and other effects that disoriented listeners in delightful ways. The song demonstrated how recording technology had become an instrument itself, capable of creating sounds nobody had heard before. The next song on the list is Mississippi Goddam by Nina Simone, released in 1964. While white artists dipped their toes in controversy, Nina Simone dove headfirst into the raging waters of civil rights. Her response to the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing abandoned the polite approach of earlier protest music. The title alone guaranteed trouble. Southern states banned it immediately. Some radio stations returned promotional copies broken in half. Despite limited airplay, the song became an anthem for activists. Simone later said, quote, "I wore that title like a badge," proving sometimes the most powerful statements come with the highest costs. Next song on the list is I Feel Like I'm Fixin' to Die Rag by Country Joe and the Fish, released in 1965. As body counts from Vietnam rose, Country Joe McDonald crafted a sardonic response that weaponized humor against war propaganda. The song's irreverent tone and infamous fish cheer earned it an instant ban from family-friendly television. The song spread through campuses like wildfire despite limited airplay. Its biting chorus asked the question many young men facing the draft couldn't avoid. What are we fighting for? The track became a protest earworm, irritating to authorities but impossible to silence once heard. At Woodstock, when Country Joe performed it for 500,000 people, the government realized music had become as powerful as any political speech. Next on the list is Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater Revival, released in 1969. As the decade closed, Creedence Clearwater Revival delivered perhaps the most enduring anti-war statement in American music. John Fogerty's growling vocals pointed out who actually fought wars and who didn't. Quote, "It ain't me, it ain't no senator's son," resonated with working class kids facing draft notices. Conservative stations avoided playing it, considering the critique unpatriotic. Yet the song connected with millions who noticed the same uncomfortable pattern. Unlike many protest songs that faded with their moment, Fortunate Son lives on decades later. When politicians use it at rallies, the irony reaches levels that would make Alanis Morissette blush. Next song on the list is Let's Spend the Night Together by the Rolling Stones, released in 1967. While protests dominated headlines, songs challenging sexual norms faced equally fierce resistance. The Rolling Stones' straightforward proposition shocked a broadcasting world still pretending teenagers didn't have hormones. The BBC clutched their collective pearls and banned it outright. The real drama happened on American TV. The Ed Sullivan Show demanded they change the lyrics to "Let's spend some time together." Mick Jagger agreed, then rolled his eyes dramatically while singing the sanitized version. His eye roll became the eye roll heard round the world, like a teenager being forced to wear a suit to a family dinner, but finding subtle ways to rebel anyways. The performance showed how meaningless censorship had become. The next song on the list is Light My Fire by The Doors, released in 1967. The Doors created their own television censorship drama months later on the same show. Producers demanded Jim Morrison change "Girl, We Couldn't Get Much Higher" before going live. He agreed backstage, then sang the original lyrics anyway. Sullivan's face probably matched the color of the on-air sign. The band's permanent ban from the show became a badge of honor in rock circles. Producer Paul Rothchild defended Morrison's decision. Quote, "It wasn't just childish rebellion, it was defending artistic integrity. The incident highlighted rock's growing confidence. Artists no longer felt grateful just to be invited to mainstream platforms. They arrived with their own terms and values." The next song on the list is I Am the Walrus by the Beatles, released in 1967. By late 1967, John Lennon had grown tired of people over-analyzing Beatles lyrics. His response? A delightfully nonsensical song designed to confuse anyone trying to find deeper meaning. Quote, "Let the English teachers wrestle with this one," he reportedly said with a mischievous grin. The BBC still found reason to ban it. The line, quote, "You've been a naughty girl, you let your knickers down," apparently threatened the very fabric of society. Lennon assembled random images and phrases like a madcap chef throwing ingredients into a pot without measuring. Salmonella, Picard, Eggman, yellow matter custard, creating something weirdly delicious despite or because of the strange combination. The song proved sometimes the most rebellious act is refusing to make sense in a world obsessed with logic. And finally, the last song on the list today is Street Fighting Man by the Rolling Stones, released in 1968. The Rolling Stones released this powder keg during 1968's global eruptions of protest. Jagger and Richard captured the revolutionary energy while acknowledging its limitations. Quote, "What can a poor boy do except sing in a rock and roll band?" became the honest question many musicians asked themselves during political crisis. Chicago's WCFL banned it during the Democratic Convention, fearing it might inspire more violence. Keith Richards created its distinctive sound by recording acoustic guitars and processing them to sound electric. The technique mirrored the song's message, working within limitations while creating the illusion of greater power. Like protesters whose only weapons were their voices, the song found strength in creative adaptation rather than brute force. There you have it, banned in the 60s, 12 songs that fueled social change. What did you think of this article? If you liked it, go ahead and hit that like button. If there was a song maybe they left off the list, put it in the comment section. I'd be interested to hear. And if you really enjoy this type of content, consider subscribing to the channel.